This video is about self-discipline in goals, self-discipline in personal excellence, and then self-discipline in courage and persistence. And a little review of last week, just to summarize. Self-discipline in success is essentially you need self-discipline as a foundation in order to be successful in anything that you want to accomplish. Self-discipline in character is all about striving to go for your higher self all the time. And once you define who that higher self is or what you want that person to be, then you aligned your actions and thoughts to reflect that essentially. And then the third chapter was self-discipline in responsibility. And this one's all essentially like you are responsible for everything that happens to you in life, good or bad. It is your responsibility, and it is your responsibility to change it. And so, in self discipline in goals, is essentially saying that we're all goal driven. We all want to have a higher purpose. We all are striving towards something. And in order to do that, in this chapter, he has a couple of exercises we can do to really hone in on what we want to focus on and what goal we want to achieve. And once we've figured out that specific goal, then we tackle that goal and really narrow down everything. And so, his way of achieving this particular goal is essentially by taking it into 7 steps. The first one is, of course, is to decide. So once you've decided that goal, you are committed to it, then the second step would be to write it down somewhere and write it down really. I feel like everybody in all the self-development books, everybody really says writing things down does something to your brain, and it's just a magical thing that happens. So once you have your goal, you write it down. Once you have it written down, you go ahead and set a deadline. And I like his way of creating this deadline because it's like super flexible. Like you're not committed to the deadline, and you can also incorporate like miniature deadlines along the way to get you to that ultimate deadline. Like it's not a concrete thing, which I really appreciate it. It's very flexible. Then the fourth thing in creating goals is to list all the obstacles, skills, knowledge. Maybe there are people that you need to that might be helpful in you achieving this goal. And so he really advises you to just dump everything out and really get as many things needed to accomplish this goal as possible. And then the fifth thing is to, once you have that list already figured out, you then go back and prioritize it by what's most important, and then start to tackle on that list. And then once you know what the first thing is like to right away take action and go towards that goal. And then the seventh thing that he really suggests is that you really tackle on this goal every single day. Every day you are striving towards working towards that goal, and every day you are taking some sort of action towards that goal. That is his whole way of creating goals and making sure that you are self disciplined while achieving your goals. The next one that we're going to tackle is personal excellence. And in personal excellence, he's essentially saying that you need to tackle on to your mental fitness. Mental fitness here is key. You need to invest in yourself, and you need to invest in your knowledge every day as well. And he mentions, you could lose everything. You could lose your money, you could lose your job, you could lose X, Y, and Z, but you will never be able to lose the ability and the knowledge that you have gained. And that is why it's so important for us to invest in our mental fitness, which I totally 100% agree. And I often forget when I'm in a really good like when you're doing so well that you forget to do these little things. This is one of the little things that I forget to do. And so he suggests that out of the amount of income that you make, that you invest in yourself, that you invest some money, so 3% of your earnings, into the following things that he mentions. So he has a list of how to become the best, and the first one is to read within your field, read essentially whatever goal that you have set place for yourself. He advises that we read to acquire knowledge in that field, which again makes sense. He also says that number 2 is to rewrite goals every day. This one, I don't know why, but it's so hard for me, but we're not going to get into that. But rewrite your goals every single day so that they can be like in the forefront of your day. Um the third one is plan every day in advance. So here you're just trying to make sure that, I mean, it's self-explanatory. Plan every day in advance. Number 4 is concentrate on one single thing a day, and especially at the beginning, he suggests that we tackle on the biggest thing that we have at the start of the day, which kind of goes into his Eat the Frog book that he has. Is essentially you try to, I think, if I remember it right, you try to tackle on the biggest project as soon as you wake up, or as soon as you get into the office. Whatever your first big task is, that hardest thing is what he's essentially suggesting that we do. And then the fifth thing to become your best is to listen to audiobooks. And here he also says that we should be taking the opportunity, especially when we have downtime, or when we are commuting, or we're, instead of, um, or using kind of some of those downtime little increments throughout the day, to really listen to something that is going to be uplifting, spiritual, something that is going to continue to strengthen that mental focus, or that mental fitness, I mean. Next thing is to reflect what is going well, what could be done better the next time, and essentially is to always keep improving, as you will have a lot of good things and bad things happen throughout, right? And then number 7 that he suggests to become the best is to always treat people as they were $1 million. And it's essentially saying here, to at least for me, is that everyone deserves courtesy and respect here, no matter who they are, what their occupation is, and just treat everyone right. It's essentially how, you also become the best, is by making sure others feel the best as well. Then we're going to go ahead and go into courage and self development. And in here, this chapter is all about tackling fears. And essentially, Brian Tracy is saying you will have a lot of encounters, there's a lot of setbacks, a lot of things that may be very uncomfortable. And so here he's just encouraging us to tackle them with courage, and to use affirmations. So, like, things like, I can do this, I got this, I can be successful, things like that, to really keep us in our track, in especially once we encounter those fears. And the other thing he suggests as well is visualizing. So looking at, again, that long-term vision, that long-term plan, that long-term goal. And the third thing is to act as if we have already done the thing, already have accomplished the thing. And so really stepping into that higher self that he talked about in the chapter of character. So all those things to essentially tackle on fear. Another thing that he suggested that we do in case we do run into fear, and is called a disaster report. And this is just a way where he has like, you define the worry, like what's worrying you, and then you define the worst possible outcome that could happen, and then you try to kind of, okay, once I figure out what the worst possible thing that could happen, are you kind of like, you come to like terms with it, you kind of like resolve or accept the worst possible result of it. And then once you do that, you begin to improve on the worst thing possible. Kind of like you work your way backwards so you make sure that that thing doesn't happen. And um I I want to say I have done this a couple of times and it definitely does work. Because then you just kind of been like, are like, okay, once I know X, Y, and Z might be the worst possible thing that could happen. Am I alive? Yes. Like, am I loved by people? Yes. Like, I go through all that and I'm like, okay, maybe that wouldn't be the worst thing possible. So it definitely helps, is what I'm trying to say. And then the last chapter is persistence. And here he's just saying, you know, he's trying to paint the story of like, the more self-disciplined you are, the more happiness will come into your life, the better you feel about yourself, the more that it encourages us to be more confident and increase our self-esteem. So the more self-discipline habits that we have are essentially going to give us more fulfillment overall. We all will have failures, we all will have setbacks, and it in those moments where we decide we are going to try again, do it again, is essentially helping us build that self-esteem. Every time we pick ourselves up, we're building that self-esteem, that confidence, that self-discipline, and encouraging us to be our higher selves regardless of how many fears and setbacks we have. I'm honestly really happy that I've read this book and kind of given myself the time to digest it in a way where I can share it and also learn from it and apply from it, and just know that with all of this, it's just like giving myself grace to conquering any goals that I have set on. So I hope that this gave you some little tidbits, and little bit of tips on how to tackle on your next goal, or if you want to continue to improve that self discipline in every area. I hope that these were insightful, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.